Welcome to the Time Management Podcast with me, your host, Abigail Barnes. I'm a productivity coach, global speaker, time management author, and award-winning entrepreneur on a mission to share the 888 formula with the world and to remind you that it's your time. Leave it to me to bring you new time management tips, tricks, tools, and strategies, to introduce you to guests, research, and case studies from around the world, and to give you a simple 5-step process you can follow to uplevel your productivity, achieve your goals, and create a life that exceeds your wildest dreams. I'm so excited that you're here, so let's get started. Welcome to the show. I am so excited to bring you a guest on today's episode. Doug Gordon, welcome to the show.
Abigail, lovely to see you.
I, as always, would like to dive straight in with this episode and conversation by giving you the mic. Doug, who is Doug Gordon in a nutshell?
Well, I think the most important thing for people to know is that Abigail and I worked together for a couple of years at Columbia Threadneedle back in the day when we were in the investment world. So I worked in the investment world for 21 years, working my way up from customer services to head of sales and marketing at one of the firms over here in Ireland, and then a board director as well. And during that time period, I managed to grow a business from 50 million per annum sales to 1.75 billion, managed to get in the newspapers such as The Times and The Independent, did reasonably well, but what people don't know, or some people don't know, is that during that time period, ended up having a near-death experience, many things that went wrong in terms of ailments, marriage breakdowns, and all that kind of stuff, which led to me to where I am today, which is now coaching, consulting, corporate training, speaking and healing in terms of doing healings on people around the world. So I had a radio show for 5 years. I've spoken on stage all around the world with some amazing people, ex-presidents, prime ministers, some film stars, New York Times bestsellers. And during that time period, my true aim in life is to help people connect to their own true self, their higher self, their heart self, so they can find their true passion, purpose, and mission in life and go and live it. And I help them set goals and direction in terms of that so that they can complete their true mission in life. So that's where I am. I've written a book, as you can see in the background here, Charge Yourself Up for Success. It's got some great testimonies, some New York Times bestsellers. I have the Leadership and Life Mastery Summit, which I'm CEO of, which is next one is on the 21st of September this year, 2024. And I bring some great speakers in and try and inspire people to live their lives in the best possible way, both in their work and in their home life as well.
Wow, that is some kind of a nutshell there. Let's dive straight in with the next question. What was your relationship like with time back in the day, back when you were a young child in your teens, early 20s?
I have to say, probably because of my parental programming, I was pretty good at time management. I did live sometimes as a teenager in a bit of a daydreamer state. So if my mother or father was saying, come on, we got to go and do this, at times maybe I might have needed a second shouting at or something like that to actually get my arse in gear and move. But generally, I was pretty good in time and always have been in terms of being on time for people. Because I was always instilled with this in terms of my parental programming, making sure that I have respect for other people's time and be there when we say we're going to be there as well. And actually, I do remember when there was no such thing as mobile phones, if we were meeting a friend or something like that in a pub when I was 18 or 19, I would always generally be there first, wondering where the others were, and was always there on time, if not earlier.
And what was time and early days of work like then? When you were in the corporate world, what was your relationship like with time in those days?
Time is money. And, in terms of that, I was working as a sales guy, running around. Initially, when I was at HSBC, I was in the car going to different areas of the country, making sure that I was on time for the people that I was working with. And they generally were financial advisors and stockbrokers. So that was very important. And I was very respectful for that. If there was any traffic problems or anything like that, I would always be making sure that I rang ahead to give plenty of time and understanding for the other person I was meeting, out of pure respect for them and understanding that they're busy people and I'm taking their time up and they've allocated time for me. So I really wanted to respect that.
What was the wake-up call or the stepping stone between working in a corporate and starting your own business? It's like two sides of the same coin. Talk us through how that actually unfolded and what role time might have played in that chapter of your life.
Yeah, so I got into the corporate world I actually did engineering in university, and I did a master's in it as well. But then I was offered a job as a foundry manager in an iron foundry, steel foundry. And I went and worked in it for a little while. And there was literally soot up my nose, my ears, and all over my suit. And my girlfriend at the time looked at me and said, "There's no way I'm going near you." So I thought, maybe this is not for me. So I had a look around, and my father had been in the financial world. He was working for Fidelity. And he told me that they were looking for graduates on their customer services broker line. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm a people orientated person. Maybe that might be more for me. So I went in, did that, started off doing that, really actually enjoyed that. It was the people orientated end of the communication end of it. Worked my way up, always been enjoyed people's company and enjoyed trying to add value to people's lives. And that's very apt in sales. And then eventually, in 2008, obviously, I was working where we were in Columbia Threadneedle, and the markets fell through the floor. And there was, a lot of redundancies and people being laid off throughout the city. Actually, Threadneedle were very good at the time compared to others, but we did lose a lot of money based not about performance, but just about where markets were. And I think everybody got stressed at that time. And I certainly did. Even though I was probably the best performer in my team, I still got very stressed. And that stress led to ailments, ailment led to doctors led to specialists, 2 operations that went wrong, all stress related. And then gradually I had these 2 operations, and that led to massive pain in the stomach and the abdomen. And for 3 years or 4 years, I was really struggling with that. And then I got the norovirus, which led to a near-death experience where I was rushed to hospital, ECG said heart, blood pressure had doubled, rushed down to A&E, and on the way down to A&E in one of those moving trolleys, I effectively passed away. And I was encapsulating this amazing feeling of love, energy, and connection. And I was told, basically, by a voice in the head, or whatever you want to call it, that I needed to change my life in some way or form. And initially, because of ego and because I was doing well, I didn't. And it took time, but gradually I wanted to heal myself. So I started doing healing and energy healing to get myself into a perfect state of health. And the healing turned into life coaching. The life coaching turned into business coaching as well. And then it turned into radio shows. I was offered a radio show. And eventually I moved out of the corporate world to do radio shows for 5 years on a proper Dublin radio show channel, and interviewed some amazing people and became friends with them, went on stage with them, and learned from them and utilized the learnings that I had to be able to help other people in some way or form. And that's what I do now. I do the coaching consulting. You can come on LinkedIn. I've worked with people like the CIO of Dell, the CEO of Occo, Stuart Lancaster, who used to be the England rugby coach, many others in that kind of field, helping them in terms of, get their mindset right, get their performance right, get their communication and presentation skills right, to be able to help them optimize their performance, to optimize their life and their business as well.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And I truly appreciate hearing parts of it that I didn't know, having known you for a long time. So it is good to have some of the blanks filled in there. Talk to us a little bit more about, in those moments when you thought it might be the end, what was running through your head? What would you say? Because I guess this is one of the questions that's in the back of most people's minds. What would happen when it gets to the end? But it's not something that people generally talk about. It's just something that's there, but it's not something that we sit down and have conversations like this with. What was that experience like for you?
At the time, obviously leading up to the near-death experience, I was super scared. I had massive pain in my chest, massive pain in my stomach. I was really frightened. I was very short of breath. I thought I was toast, basically. And at the time, I was really, really scared. And I thought that was it. And then suddenly, I was encapsulating this amazing feeling of love, energy, connection. And all the pain completely dissipated. And I had this whole sense of love within me, and a connective love to almost everything in that respect. And obviously I came back because I wouldn't be speaking to you now. But at that point, I still, even though having had that experience, there was a massive ego in play. And the ego was basically saying, well, you had that experience, fine, but you've got family to look after, you've got a job that's good, you've got to go back to do that, which I did to begin with. But then I got another wake-up call where a few weeks later, I decided I had this spiritual experience, so I needed to go back and maybe do something to say thank you for being here still, because I truly believe that life is a gift, and the greatness of this life and the gratitude that we can have for this life can put you up to another level of enjoyment in it as well. So I wasn't gonna, really change that much, I don't think, to begin with. But then I went and did this spiritual course, and I turned up for the first day, and they're talking. It was a religious course, Christian course. They're talking about Jesus, and I thought, well, I don't know if I should do this. I went out and I said to the universe, I said, "Give me a sign, because I don't know whether I'm going to do this or not." It was 2 nights later. I went out running, and I tripped up over my dog. She never tripped me up before. I was full pace, tripped up over the dog, cut my hand and my knee to shreds, and on my hand I had an infinity sign here, an infinity sign there, and between the two, it was just about here, I had the letters of the cross, which was in cuts, INRI. And it was big I, big N, small r, small I. So it was like as if saying, Jesus of Nazareth here, not really King of the Jews, but go back and do that course. So I went back and did the course, got into it, read half the Bible, probably about three quarters of the Bible, and became a massive advocate. But, Abigail, what I felt was, I still felt inside me that energy that I was in when I had that near-death experience would never alienate or discriminate against anybody in this world. And I feel that religions are all beautiful in their own right, and they're all paths to the sea, like rivers going to the sea. Each one of them has their own beauty. Each one of them has their own journey. It's just different perspectives on the same thing or getting to the same path. What I really believe is love, in finding love for yourself, being able to create love with other people and have appreciation and love for this planet and this earth and this playground that we live in as well. So that's what I felt at the time, and that's what I even feel more now. And even more so now, I feel that we come down to this planet to learn, to grow, to evolve, to become better versions of ourselves. And as Einstein said, energy never dissipates, it just moves from one form to another. So I believe, like a lot of religions now, that we come down again and again and again. And based on that time, we want to try and self-improve each time. We want to learn something new each time. And if we take that away from us, it's almost like Groundhog Day. We'll have to do it again in some way or form. And I also believe if you're having a hard time in life, which a lot of us do, let's face it, maybe pat yourself on the back. Because maybe you've played this game of life so often that you're testing yourself the ultimate to see if you can get through all this crap and come out the other side still as the best version of you. So reframe life in terms of learnings. Understand life has darkness and light. And when we go into the darkness, that means that when we come out, we can really appreciate the light even more so as well.
Incredible. Wow. I hardly know what to say or which way to take this conversation. But to ask you the next question, what would you say to somebody who is in that place of questioning, what's the point? Why am I here? It's really hard. I don't know what to do next.
The first thing I'd say is do a SWOT analysis on yourself in terms of looking at your strengths, your skills, your gifts, what you love doing, what you can add value to the world in some way or form. Or another way of doing it is I've spoken on stage loads of times in front of many amazing people. And if I was to give you a stage in front of 10,000 people, you were 90 years of age, it was your legacy speech to leave on this planet before you went away, what would that be? What would you be most passionate about? What would you really want to leave as a message? And when you know what that is, reverse engineer yourself back to where you are today and ask yourself, what do I need to learn? What do I need to do? Who do I need to collaborate with to be worthy enough to stand on that stage, give that speech, and leave that legacy for the people on this planet? That way you know what you love doing, you know what you're good at doing and gifted at doing, and you know what you can add value to people in some way or form. That'll give you direction maybe a bit more in your life. Or if you're having a really hard time, have a look at all the crap that's happened in your life and turn your mess into a message to give meaning and help other people in some way or form, or your tragedy into a triumph, as they say. I always say what you go through, you grow through to glow through. So reframe the past, reframe these dark times, not into lessons in a bad way, but into learnings. Take yourself out of the situation, take yourself out of the emotion and commotion of where you are at the moment. Put yourself on the 10th floor. Look back down on yourself as the observer rather than the person wrapped up in all of this. And ask yourself, what can I learn here? How can I grow here? What can I take from the learnings and the experience of this situation to bring it in and maybe raise consciousness by helping other people or help myself in some way or form? What do I have? What gift do I have to the world? And if you don't know it, sit down, put your hand on your heart, listen to your breath, close your eyes, tell yourself you love you while you're doing it over and over again with your eyes closed, breathing deeply in, deeply out. Write down on the top of a piece of paper when you finished after 5 minutes, why am I here? What value can I add to the world? What is my purpose? And without even thinking, just start writing. And write, if possible, anything. If you can't think of anything to write, just write, I can't think of anything to write. And eventually, something will suddenly come to you. And then write down everything that comes to you over those maybe 3 pages. And afterwards, just reflect and read and see if there's any inspirations that you didn't even know were there in the first place that might help you. Because also by journaling like this, you can get out what's on your mind onto the paper, get it away from here and get it out there. And as you can see, I've got my hand on my heart, right? The other thing to do in any situation, I would say, even when I'm going on stage, for example, I would say, I am Doug Gordon, I am my heart. Please let me connect the hearts of the audience in order to bless rather than impress and add as much value. So often we get into the head self, the ego self, where we overthink things over and over and over again. Whereas if we get into that place of our heart self, our higher self, and we connect truly to that, sometimes the inspirations, and the word inspiration comes from the word in spirit, come to us much more quickly and concisely because we're coming from that place of love.
So many incredible top tips there. What I'm really hearing at the core of them all is spend time with yourself. And in a world where distractions are almost an addiction, that is such great advice. Let's keep on this track because it's very, very easy to join the dots when you're looking back. But when you're going forward step by step by step, you have these near death experiences. You've got bills to pay. Let's be real. You've got a family to support, but something in you is starting to shift. How did you deal with the duality of the two different feelings within you and the journey that you were moving on? And what can you see looking back that sort of helped and might help someone else who's going through a similar thing?
If you're in, say, a corporate job at the moment and you feel compelled with passion and purpose connected to your heart to do something different, that's great. However, when I went into it to begin with, it's a completely different field. You're starting from scratch all over again. I had to begin with, when I became a coach, consultant, corporate trainer and speaker, you have no basic salary coming in every month. You have no security every single month. So make sure that you have some kind of pot, which thankfully I did because I did very well in the investment world, but have a pot or something like that, or start it on the side. Start a business on the side of where you want to go in terms of your passion. Feed that passion and fund that passion with your day job, and start by maybe doing something in the evening. And then after a while, when it starts to build up and you get a few more extra clients or start building up the product or whatever it is, then maybe see if you can find a day job, maybe that for 4 days a week or for 3 days a week. And that way you're gradually putting yourself into it without putting yourself in the pressure. Because when you have that pressure and stress of worry, then you're not in that place of love. And if you're in that place of love, it needs to be a little bit more focused. It will be a bit more focused, to give you better inspiration to be able to get much better ideas and be aligned to the right kind of energy. Now, having said that, I've been doing it for 6 years now. And, I probably have about, like yourself, I have quite a lot of LinkedIn recommendations. I've probably got 80, I think I've got 86 or 87 LinkedIn recommendations at the moment. And then 21 5-star Googles as well, reviews. But I still sometimes get imposter syndrome because I still sometimes see myself as that investment guy. And I think other people do as well. I know my own family, some of them do. They look at me and go, what are you doing this healing stuff? What are you doing this life coaching stuff? You saved someone's life the other day who's about to commit suicide? Really? That doesn't sound like you. And I'm like, well, that's what I do now. It's me. I have my Buddha side, my business side. I still work in terms of the business stuff. And I'm working now with CEOs. I have a CEO of a company who's a massive company worldwide who rings me up for advice. And, I sometimes have to look at myself and go, well, I was never a CEO of a big multinational company. I was, reporting straight into the CEO, but I was never a CEO. And here I'm advising this guy now. Why is that? Well, I believe, you need to make sure that you're truly connected to your heart self. You're truly downloading inspirational ideas and insights that can add value to others. And when you're in that state, and that's not think, that's not believe, that know that you're in that state, then you're ready to be able to add value to people. But there will be times where you'll be tested. There will be times where you question yourself. And that's why it's good to have those little accolades that you can read over like a trophy room to remind yourself of that. And it's so important to get into the energy of celebration, so you bring and gratitude, so you bring more of the good stuff to you. And quite often what happens is people become complacent. They know the disciplined approaches and the consistent approaches they need to do to be effective in their time, but then they sometimes get a little bit complacent. And that's why we need to keep going back to the basics. And that's why sometimes having a coach like you or I can really help people to be accountable to those basics, accountable to those disciplined acts, and be accountable to be able to give the most to their clients as well. And that's what I help people do, and make sure I get people back on the track when they're not there as well.
Let's talk a little bit about identity, as you've brought it up. Such an interesting concept. What are your top tips? What have you done over the years, and how do you work with your clients to help them to step into the new identity of who they are becoming?
Number one is to get that purpose, that why. Remember what I said, what you love doing, what you've been gifted in this lifetime to do, and what you can add value to others or the world, so you can make money out of it as well in some way. Because money is energy. For an exchange of what you give out, you can get back, or experience, or time. So that would be the first thing. The second step then is, we all have baggage, right? We all have parental programs that we play. Let's face it, for the first 3 years of your life, you can hardly speak. So it's all one-way traffic coming from your parents and your aunties and uncles and grandparents, and they feeding into you. So you tend to model them very much so. And you go into life then with certain patterns that don't serve you, ancestral stuff that's come down from the grandparents, the great-grandparents and stuff, and so on. And some of them are great, and some of them are very useful for people, but some of them don't serve us, especially in this day and age. So awareness and self-awareness is so important. And I think the highest form of consciousness, or most grounded version of consciousness, is emotional intelligence, which is self-awareness, which is conscious communication, which is empathy and compassion, which is self-regulation in terms of creating win-win in the interactions that you have with others and your own self. And it is finally about finding that motivation that motivates you and the people around you as well. And if you can do that, it's part of emotional intelligence. But let's go back to the number one, is self-awareness. Because some people do traits that they aren't even aware of. They have subconscious programming which they do again and again, and they don't see it, but others do. So what I say to people is, let's have a look at those in a state of awareness, because maybe you might be able to help yourself to get up to a higher level of conscious thinking. So what do? Do you procrastinate? Are you bad with time management? Are you stressed at times? Do you feel worthy? Are you lacking self-love? Are you opinionated? Do you not actively listen enough? All these kind of things. So you write down in a self-awareness state the ones that you know, but there's going to be a lot that you don't know. So the next stage is picking 5 people in your life, and I choose 5 because it gives it a decent viewpoint, and write down all the traits of these 5 people that you know don't serve them, sabotage themselves, or you don't like about them in some way or form. And when you've written those 5 people down, have a look at those. And if there's even 2 that have the same one, own it, because it's going to be in you as well. Because the people that come into our lives reflect back areas that we need to self-improve on ourselves. In my book, I always say the word narcissist, which a lot of people always say, oh, my ex was a narcissist. And I say, well, did you love them? I loved them for 10 years until the last year they suddenly became a narcissist, which is normally because they see something in the other person that is in them that they don't want to look at it themselves. And I say that the acronym of narcissist could be, and this is something that I just kind of came up with, is neglected awareness, reflecting conditions in suppressed self, instigating soul transition. And what I mean by that is sometimes the hardest people that come into our lives are the ones that reflect back the areas that we need to self-improve in ourselves. So that's why having a look at the 5 people can give you indications of maybe something you haven't seen in yourself. And then the third part of the exercise is to phone a friend. And phone a friend, or meet with a friend, or a few even if possible, and ask the other person, I'm doing this exercise, it's an ego exercise to self-improve. You'd be really helping me if you're more honest with me rather than blowing smoke up my ass. Can you tell me what I need to self-improve on? What do you not like about me? What are my saboteurs that you can see in me? And that way, then they're going to give you a big, spiel. I did this with my dad. He told me to bring a big pad, and it was great. And some of the stuff they might be seeing in themselves and a reflection in you, but add it to the list anyway. And then that way, you get a self-aware view from your own self. You get a mirrored view from the people around you in your life. Your vibe attracts your tribe, And then finally, you get a third party view as well. Take this, find a coach, write them down, and voice them out loud, such as, at times, I'm egotistical. At times, I'm opinionated. At times, I procrastinate. And go through all of them. When I did this for the first time, I had 28. I had one client who had 50. And so there's no harm to write these down. And by the way, anybody listening who doesn't think they have many, I would say have a look at yourself, because either you're a perfectionist, which is a trait of narcissism, or you might have traits of narcissism in them. Because people who don't like looking at their flaws are generally people who are like that. So be open. I actually said to one client, I said, I won't name him, but I said, Bob, his name isn't Bob, by the way, Bob, I know narcissists don't like looking at this. I know you're not a narcissist, but let's do this exercise because I think it might help you. And of course, whether Bob is a narcissist or not, then he's going to suddenly go, oh, I'm going to make sure I show him that I'm not a narcissist, and I'm going to go and do this exercise. So it's a really good exercise to have a look at those flaws, because then you have awareness. And with awareness and acceptance that they're in you, then you can change and catch yourself out when you're doing them. Because without awareness, you can't change. Without acceptance that they're in you, you can't change. So I get people to say these out loud in front of me with their hand on their heart, with passion and emotion. So they'd say those all out loud, and then they get that piece of paper up, and they'd rip the piece of paper up, burn it. I had one guy in Dallas with his barbecue ready, burn it on a fire or throw it down the toilet, whatever you need to do to, like in a ceremony, almost get rid of these. And then have affirmations of I am positive opposites. So if it was opinionated, I am always listening with love and understanding the other person's perspective. If it was lack of self-love, I am worthy of love. I am love, and so on. And have these affirmations and say them. I always say, put them next to the mirror where you're doing your teeth. Before you do your teeth, it'll take you like a minute. Do them out loud. Say them out loud. I am this. I'm positively, with passion, and voicing it out loud, because then you speak it out loud to go back into the subconscious mind. And that way, what you're doing over time, if you do it for a minimum of 21 days, preferably 60 days, you will implement neuroplasticity in terms of the way you think, speak, and act into your brain, your subconscious mind. And I have to say, it has to be a minimum of 21 days, preferably the 60 days, because then you're talking and talking and talking, and the hypnosis self-talk implements that into your brain as well. That way, then you've got that awareness, and you're starting to create the patterns. Now, you're still going to do these things. So what you do at the end of the day, for 5 minutes only, just have a little think and maybe write down, journal, okay, what were the interactions I had with Abigail? How was I thinking? How was I behaving? How was I feeling in terms of my emotions? Did they serve me in that interaction, including my own self, or did they not? And remember, you're the person who talks to yourself the most. Sometimes it can be the most intelligent conversation you have. So you might as well make it positive. So learn from it. Catch yourself out. And if you get those negative thoughts, which we all do, say to yourself out loud, if possible, is this true? And, so say, for example, let's say you're going on a date and you meet this beautiful man, and, you think he's a really good guy, and your mind says, oh, you're not good enough for him. Say to yourself out loud, as long as he's not there, because obviously you look a bit, oh, is that my truth? Really? And then ask yourself, what if that thought didn't exist? What could I do in my life? And what are the 3 things that I could possibly do to achieve this, if I want to achieve it, rather than the negative as well? And that way you're changing the perspective of it. Or if you get these negative thoughts as well, which aren't necessarily like that, turn them into a gratitude. What are you grateful for in life? I always say in life, and this is what happens. You mentioned about distraction and everything like that. People these days are always looking for the dopamine hits. They're looking for the dopamine hits, right? And I can tell you, the greatest thing that we have in life is the 5 senses. The gift of being able to see the sun, the sea, the stars, and the sky. The gift of being able to hear the whistle of the wind and someone telling you that they love you. The gift of being able to touch and hug and kiss. The gift of taste of chocolate and wine. And also the gift of smell, being able to smell the dew in the air on a lovely day. So if we're grateful for the smaller things in life and really show interest and gratitude for these things, we'll open our subconscious mind up to receiving more things, if that makes sense. So that's why, number 1, the awareness technique really works. I've done it with hundreds of people, really positive thing to do. And secondly, show real gratitude for where you are, so you open yourself up to receive more.
Number 1, this awareness technique, working with somebody like yourself and or listening to this episode back and going through all those steps will help somebody to become clear on the shadows, the subconscious programs that are running their life and creating the reality they experience. And then number two, I hear you say that gratitude is how you start to become and build the person that you truly came here to be.
Yeah, I have an acronym. What we go through in life, we grow through in life to glow through in life. And in terms of glowing, we all like to gleam in any situation, our inner light, our inner torch. And how do we gleam? It starts with gratitude, but also giving to others. And I've got children, right? So if I give them a present and they're not grateful, do I feel like giving them anything else? Probably not. So why would your subconscious mind give you anything else if you're not grateful for everything that you've created, the good and the bad, because the bad helps you grow in your life already? That's the first side. And then giving to others, obviously, the greatest gift you can give to yourself, because when you're in a state of service for others, it gives you a state of contentment within, because you know you're adding value to people's lives. L is learning, and you learn to earn. And that's why it's good getting a coach. Tiger Woods is a coach, right? Doesn't necessarily mean the coach is any better than Tiger Woods, which it wouldn't be. But you can mastermind with somebody else the areas that you might not see in yourself. And then also L is letting go, because the past is history, the future is a mystery, the present is a gift, so live in the now and enjoy it. And even if you're planning your future, you can't do that in the future. You can only plan your future in the now, so be in the now. E is emotional intelligence, which I talked about, but also energy. The spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical energies are all intertwined. Work on one and they'll help the others. And physical is an easy one. Go and get fit. Watch your physiology. Make sure you're sitting up straight and all that kind of stuff. A is authenticity. I believe that everything in life, whether it be relationships, clients, leadership, it's all about trust. It's all about being your authentic self, creating authenticity around you and within the relationships you have, and they'll be much better in that way. And then M, the final bit, is meaning. And that meaning, I always say, is creating that sense of purpose. But also, if you want another M, which I like, is meditation, and not necessarily because you're going to sit there going, it's because you can actually put yourself in the visualization of the energy of what you want. And when you put yourself in that energy, you'll bring more of it to you as well. One of my great friends is Dr. John DeMartini, who's in the Secret film. And he says, what you think about and thank about, you bring about. So close your eyes, see the future that you want, think about it in I am grateful statements as if you already have it, and visualize it. And you never know, you might just put yourself in the energy and bring more of it to you as well.
Fantastic. Talk to us about your book, Charge You Up for Success. What are the top things that we can take away from this book?
Charge Yourself Up for Success is it's a book really about success in life. So it's energizing your life, work, and relationships is the subtitle of the book. I'm very grateful that I had some amazing people read it, like Lisa Nichols and John DeMartini from The Secret Film, Stephen Covey, as in Stephen M.R. Covey, who wrote Speed of Trust, which has sold over 2 million books and is a New York Times bestseller. And many other amazing people have testimonied as well after reading it. And it firstly goes into finding your purpose and giving ways of doing that. It secondly helps you release the past in terms of letting go and forgiving different areas of your life, and gives techniques and tricks to do that. It then helps you in terms of that awareness technique, and it goes into a bit more depth into that. It gives examples and stories of other people, but also with my own self. Because I interviewed over 300 people on my radio show, I try and share all these inspirational people, these New York Times bestsellers, film stars, CEOs, whatever, what they went through and what the stories that they learned from, to be able to help people as well. It then goes into energy and how you can optimize your energy to optimize your life in all ways and all forms. It talks about energy in a grounded context, but also in a spiritual context as well, because of the near-death experience I have, the understanding I have, and how you can potentially utilize your energy, optimize your energy so that you can optimize your life. Then I go into talking about relationships, a little bit about business, a little bit about all aspects of life, implementing the ideas, showcasing where you can implement the ideas, and then improve your life to be able to be the most emotionally intelligent person and create the best possible life for you and the people around you as well.
Sounds fantastic. And we will, as always, leave all the links in the show notes. I'm sure it is available in all the usual Amazons, bookshops, places around the world. So grab yourself a copy of Charge Yourself Up for Success. Doug, I want to ask you a question I ask all my guests. What is one thing that you do with your time that you think that other people don't?
One of the things I think which is a little bit unusual, because I'm an energy healer, I always spend, if you go into a supermarket, right, sometimes there can be loads of people. Quantum physics has proved that we all have an auric field and an energy around us and an energy within us. And what happens is, sometimes you can go into a supermarket or something like that, and you might brush past somebody who's having a really bad day or a bad week or a bad year. And sometimes we can pick up, especially when we're a caring person and we're empathetic towards other people's energies, we can sometimes pick up resonance of their energy. Let's face it, you can walk into a room, two people have had an argument, you can feel that tension, you feel like turning around and walking straight back out. So understanding that, sometimes I have people who come to me, for example, I have a European attorney. If you look on my YouTube, you'll see she gives a testimony because I cured her of long COVID. But she also comes to me on a monthly basis for energy healings. And the reason why she comes is because she goes into a courtroom. She goes into areas where sometimes there's conflict, there's negative energy and stuff like that. And her vibration, her resonance and her energy sometimes picks up on that. And she's a bit jaded. So I have an ability, well, we all have an ability, but I have a skill to be able to get rid of that. So every single day I give myself a bit of a clean out. It would be like, going in the pub and cleaning out the pipes to make sure you get the best possible beer or Guinness. So I make sure that I spend time grounding myself firstly, but also doing an energy protection exercise that basically clears out any negativity any energies not of my desire, and also then kind of sparks my energy up into the highest frequency so I'm ready for the day. So I give out the best possible insights, the best possible energy and love, which I always say is lots of vibrant energy to everybody I meet as well. And unless you're an energy healer, I don't know many people who do that. So that would be something that I do, which probably is very different in terms of my time.
And when it comes to finding time, making time, having time for your health, for your well-being, how important is that?
I always ask people in my coaching, what are your top values in life? What are your top 3 values? And normally people will say their family, number one, or a partner, number 1 or number 2, their job, and if they've got children, they'll always say children up there as well. Well, actually, the number 1 should be your health. Because if you are more healthy and you have better well-being, you can give more in your relationships, you can give more in your job, you can give more to your children, and you can give more to your own self as well. So the number 1 really should be your health and well-being. So very important. I make sure I give time to myself at least 5 times a week. I go for a minimum of a 5K run, normally much more, sometimes 14 or 15K run with my dog. And we go up the cliffside, or we go to the beach, or I live next to the beach and live next to the cliffside. And I think it's very important to get sunlight as well. Vitamin D. Too much of us are out by our screens. We're not out there enjoying the sunlight, and that's incredibly important as well. So that's why I try and do it outside as well. Even if it's raining, people say, I can't get vitamin D when it's raining. There's still light coming through. So get out there and try and enjoy it as much as possible as well. And I think it's paramount. I think every single day, time management, one of the things that we do, the Pomodoro technique is very powerful to be able to get out after 25 minutes and do something. Well, do little things like jump around and get the blood flow going before you get back down. They've proven that children and university students who do exercise in the morning are more successful in their work. They've done exercise in the morning because they are more vibrant. The flow is going through their body. Get out there, get moving, get the blood flow going, get the oxygen to the brain. You'll get more done in less time with less stress. And I think it's paramount.
What do you do to manage your time these days? Do you see it as managing time? What systems, processes, procedures do you have for making sure you make the most of the time that you have?
Okay, I'm going to give you 2 perspectives. I'm going to give you my perspective now and perspective of anybody who's in a corporate sales job like I used to be, to help them as well. So my perspective now is to try and plan out my week and understand my week on a Sunday evening, because generally there's not much going on a Sunday evening, only just for 10, 15 minutes, have a look through the diary, see what I got to do, make a little plan in my head in terms of what I'm going to do and everything like that. And then during the week, so each individual morning I get up and I do a bit of meditation to get myself into a relaxed state. But I also then write down the goals for the day and the tasks for the day. And I visualize each individual task in a state of celebration as if I've already achieved it, because it puts the energy in place of that I'm going to achieve it and it's going to be very successful. That helps in terms of a sense of intention and planning things out as well during that day. Then I always say make your bed in the morning, because then you've done one task for the day, and that hopefully means you'll do all the tasks in the day as well. And women are very good at that, men not so good. So that's why it's very important to do that. And then the next thing then is at lunchtime, or maybe about kind of 2:00, just have a self-check, see where you are, check you've done everything you need to do in the morning, preferably, and this is for corporates as well, I try and get the stuff I don't enjoy as much done in the morning, so that then I can do the more enjoyable stuff and I might be slightly more tired in the afternoon. If you're in the corporate world doing sales, I always used to say, get all your admin and your planning done in the morning. Then go out and do, if you're seeing people, go and see clients around the lunchtime. So put a main key client in at lunchtime because they're a bit more relaxed and they'll give you more time potentially. And then put 2 geographic meetings close by so you optimize your time out of the office either side of that. So you might have an 11:30 meeting, a 1 o'clock meeting, and then maybe a 2:30 or 3 o'clock meeting. And then you can get back hopefully to the office just to finalize the day. And also when you're back in the office, that's a good time, I find personally, to make calls for people. Because they tend to be, like if you're doing cold calling and it's 4 o'clock, they're going home in an hour or two. So they're a bit more relaxed and they're going to be a bit more receptive. They might pick up the phone and say, oh, who's this? And they'll be in a good mood. And also, you've been talking with your clients while you're out about markets, about economies, or about the industry that you're in. And you'll have more to talk about and add value to people if you're on the phone as well. So that'll be the other thing. And also, on a flip side, when you're picking up the phone to somebody to do a cold call, if it's sales or your business or something like that, in terms of time management, remember, it's their time. So when you're calling them, firstly, ask them permission, is it a good time to speak? And secondly, aim to get a meeting with them in terms of a face-to-face meeting or a Zoom call, rather than just trying to sell to them on the phone, because you're disturbing their day. So in terms of time management, be very conscious of that, thinking and putting yourself in the other person's shoes. You've taken them away from a task that they were potentially doing, and they took the time to answer the phone for you. So respect that and say, look, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I really appreciate and value you as a person. I'd love to meet you. I'd love to tell you about something that I think that could add value to you, reduce your time, make you more productive, and help in terms of whatever you're doing. That way, then you can arrange another time that suits them rather than just you, to be able to sell to them or tell them about your business or add value to them in some way or form. The other thing I'd say is if you're ever trying to call a CEO or a head of business or an MD, call them before 8 o'clock in the morning or after 6 o'clock, because they've got people, their teammates coming in all the time, asking them questions, needing help, needing support, all that kind of stuff. Pick them at the times when it's quiet. Outside of those as well, it might give you more opportunity to get through with them. The other thing I'd say is on a Wednesday, always have a little self-check, see how you are. End of Wednesday, just check, see if you've done all your tasks for the day, anything you need to catch up on, so you still have 2 days to do it as well.
Top tips. And we spoke earlier about the importance of exercising for our well-being, mental health, and also we spoke about energy and energy management. What would you say to somebody whose sentence to you is, Doug, I'm just too busy. I don't have time.
The most successful people tend to give you the most amount of time because they can balance their time out effectively. And a lot of it comes down to planning, but also a lot of it comes down to outsourcing. What are you really good at doing and what do you love doing? I said earlier on, why do the things that you don't enjoy doing? Give your financials to an accountant. Give your admin to a virtual assistant. How much do you value your time at? I'm a coach, right? I might value my time at €1,000 an hour, okay? So if there's somebody that can do the same task for you for €50 an hour, why not pay them for that? Then you got more time doing the things that you love doing, and you're going to add value to you and your other people that you're working with. That's why it's very important to realize that we all get busy, but if there's careful planning and working out what is best for you, when somebody comes to you that might be a great opportunity, you should allocate a little bit of time for that as well. And I think a lot of people use that as an excuse in terms of they're too busy. That would be probably my best advice. Better planning, also outsourcing of everything that you can possibly do that is a minimal amount compared to what you value your true time for.
Am I hearing you say that your answer to somebody who's asking, how can I have more time to work out, is to reorganize their time and to look at where their priorities are and just to make time for their health, for their well-being?
100%. Yeah. In terms of health and well-being, everybody knows this, but they don't practice it. A lot of people go to the gym at lunchtime, and why is that? And why is it a good time to go? Well, obviously we get a bit more time at lunchtime, but actually it's a great time because you've been working hard during the day. You've been sitting at static states. You think of a river, right? The river's running along, and if there's a bit of a stone at the side, water catches behind it and it goes scummy. And it sometimes looks a bit foamy and horrible, right? So if your blood flow isn't going in the best possible way, the oxygen to your brain is not going to be going as much. There's not going to be as much oxygen up there. So if you've done some exercise, if you've got better blood flow, if you're in a healthier state, there's going to be more oxygen there. You're going to be able to think quicker, act quicker, focus better, and you're going to be more productive and get more done in less time with less stress.
Fantastic. And as we wrap this conversation up, I can't believe the time has flown. What is one question you haven't been asked that you would like to share to call this episode complete?
A question that I used to ask all the time in my radio shows, and I have a new podcast which is going to be sponsored by Together magazine. And one of my favorite questions to ask people is, what advice would you give to your younger 18-year-old self? Now, there's a few things. One, I'd tell my younger 18-year-old self not to drink as much alcohol, because I think alcohol reduces your energy levels, it reduces your auric field, it reduces your cognitive ability and makes you more sluggish. And it's also a waste of money. So that'd be the first thing. But actually, I would say to the younger 18-year-old self as well is, don't worry so much about life, because life is made up of balance. It's made up of north and south, east and west, positive and negative, and darkness and light. There will be dark times. Go into those dark times, see the lesson in the dark times, learn from the lesson in the dark times, and understand in the balance of energies that if you've gone through those dark times, it means you're almost leveraged up and owed a little bit of good times as well. So every single time in that, look for the lessons in life, look for the different perspectives in life, reframe everything in terms of what added value to me. So if you had a relationship breakdown, you might say in the past, oh, that person was a so-and-so, why did I spend time with them? But actually sit down and write down, what were the things that you learned from them? What reflected back from them? What did you grow through from being with them? And you might find, and same with jobs, same with experiences, you might find that if you reframe life and reprogram your mindset, you'll reprogram it for success in life.
Final question. What have you got coming up in 2024, and where is the best place for us to connect in and find you online?
Well, LinkedIn would be my preference. And obviously it's just Doug Gordon. The Leadership and Life Mastery Summit, as you can see behind there, is my summit, which I do regularly. So it'll be the second time I've done it this year on the 21st of September in Dublin, but it's also online worldwide as well. So the 21st of September is a Saturday. I have got Stephen Covey. I have got Marissa Peer, who's one of the top therapists in the world. She's got millions of followers. I've got Pat Falvey, who's done the North Pole, South Pole, Everest twice. I have got David McGowan, who owns 8 magazines. He's a media mogul. He owns Together magazine, which sells over 1.3 million printed copies every single year. And I've got some other amazing people as well, all speaking at it, including my own self. And we aim to do workshop style, to add value to people, to help people get into their best state, live their best life, to get more wealth, health, and happiness. And that's my whole ethos in life. And I do that through energy healing, but also through the energy of the communication you have. I teach people professional business skills in terms of communication skills, sales skills, marketing skills, leadership skills. You name it, I can do it. I'm working with some amazing people out there, amazing companies out there. And if you need to get in touch, please contact me on LinkedIn, on my website, dougdgordon.com. And I'll look forward to seeing you, speaking with you, and adding value to you.
Fantastic. Doug Gordon, thank you so much for your time today. I truly appreciate you being a guest on the show.
It's my pleasure, Abigail. Thank you so much. And anybody listening, thank you with gratitude for listening in. Have a wonderful day.
And as we wrap this episode up, it is my duty to remind you, if you are loving these episodes, please share them with people. If you have any questions, obviously reach out, and all reviews are gratefully accepted. So until next time, my friends, stay safe, stay well, and remember, it's your time. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you loved what you heard, be sure to let me know by leaving a review so I can keep the good stuff coming. Come and say hi on Instagram at Success by Design Training, or visit my website, successbydesigntraining.com, or connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search Abigail Barnes. Until next time, don't forget, you are amazing and it's your time.